Welcome to Inner Light. Tonight, we are joined by Dr. Jack Hinman, a seasoned psychologist and founder of Engage Young Adult Transitions. With over 20 years of experience guiding young adults, he shines a light on the transformative power of relationships, resilience, and life skills in navigating mental health challenges. This isn't just about survival in young adulthood, it's about building a foundation for a meaningful, independent life. Welcome to the show, Jack. It's an honor to have you.
Oh, thank you. I'm totally excited to talk about the role of connection in healing and like in the process of the crisis connection that we're in right now and how that's really impacting the dramatic increase in mental health concerns that young people are facing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Jack, you emphasize the critical role of relationship in young adult healing. What makes relationship such a powerful driver of growth during this stage?
We are social animals. We are like it's in our DNA to to be part of a tribe, to be part of a community, to be part of connection, and it's part of our survival. I mean, and so people that have long-term relationships live longer, and so it's crucial to our survival. It's like it's coded into our DNA. So when we are not having a sense of real healthy connection, then that's when we start suffering as humans. That's where we become depressed, become anxious, and we're in a crisis right now with connection and a lack of community that we're seeing in young people. There will also, I mean, we're even seeing it in people that are middle age and older, and so the thing is, our culture is so set up in a way with utilizing technology and those things that's disruptive to connection. And it's pretty ironic that that we're so interconnected on a global level. Like you and I are talking, we're talking probably in such far locations. However, we're still suffering from the lack of real connection.
Yeah, makes sense. And can you share a moment where a supportive relationship shifted the trajectory for someone?
I'll talk about myself. I mean, where the role of connection is my driving force. It's the thread of my success. And um, I I struggled as a teen, and I connected with made a couple really close friends that I have a deep connection with today. And then I end up with those relationships, those connections traveled out west through those relationships and those connections, really learn how to like be a friend. And through learning how to be a friend and learning how to be a roommate, really help me develop the skills to actually to maintain a partner. To today is my anniversary. I've been married for 27 years, and through that foundation and those relationships really helped me learn how to have the skills and the mindset and the resiliency to maintain a marriage, and then to go on to raise two healthy, successful kids. I have an 18-year-old son and I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I have a strong connection with them. They're thriving, like personally thriving in their relationships. They're thriving in their academics. And so that deep thread and that connection, that foundation I found as a young adult, as a teenager, really helped build the foundation for me to form other relationships in my life. And through those, and then so that's been my driving force. I consider myself very well connected to people like throughout my whole development, like people from like college, people from my undergrad, people from my high school, people professionally, and I keep maintain a deep connection with a lot of people in my life, like who have been in different stages of my life. I still connected with.
That's amazing. And that really shows how connection can sometimes heal wounds that no textbook strategy could ever.
Yeah, you talk about how connection is healing. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like like as I say is that connection is the actual out as the outcome and the intervention. And as a clinical psychologist, all paths lead to connection. And through the therapeutic process is working with clients to help remove barriers that get in the way with them connecting. And because when you think about it, like the criteria that we utilize for diagnosis of mental health disorders is related to relationships. And the issue with anxiety is the outcome of the issues with anxiety is the lack of connection. And so the therapeutic process is around that. And so the thing is that I come from a perspective of attachment theory, um, and attachment perspective when it comes to way relationships are maintained. And through consistent healthy relationships, deep healing happens. Like one can shift their attachment style through having deep connections with people around them. And so through consistent relationships, through hard work and resiliency and developing the skills to know how to maintain a relationship is the healing. And through so what really happens in a strong, effective therapeutic relationship with the therapist is helping that client to start building healthy attachments in their real life, in their community. And that's the bridge. And the therapist can be the foundation and the start of that healthy attachment to help build those connections in that. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And young adulthood often comes with heavy mental health challenges. From your experience, what are the most common struggles you see?
yeah, it goes to isolation. Um, a lot of young adults are isolating. A lot of young adults are learning about relationships and connections through virtual experiences. And that's a very distorted reality of how relationships really work. And young adult, and so the barrier of entry into a virtual relationship is very low. You don't even have to, you could be any gender, you could be any age. You don't have to have a skill set to be part of something, to be part of that connection. And so the barrier of entry is very low. The barrier of exit's very high. People can boot you from a group. They can ghost you. And so young adults are forming the way they conceptualize relationships and connection is online, like I said, is very distorted. And also too, where you'll get a young adult that has 1,000 connections, but they're lacking the intimacy, they're lacking the vulnerability, they're lacking the deep connection. So the irony behind that, they have a quantity number, high quantity number of connections, but a very poor quality of connections. And that young person still is suffering with depression, anxiety. And what happens is that they're not developing the skill set to learn how to connect in the real world. So when they try to connect in the real world, they're super anxious, and that anxiety creates a sense of awkwardness. And so then they don't know how to connect, and it just perpetuates their isolation and loneliness. And so the key is how do we create environments and how do we encourage young people to actually connect in real life? I mean, they're like, I'm not like, like a get off my lawn kind of like old fogey here, realize that it's the reality. Like I'm sitting there having a connection with you virtually. And so there is definitely a place for that. I mean, connection virtually can enhance and build, like maintain the current relationships you have in person. And so the young adults, are growing up in an environment where they don't have real relationships, are not developing the skill set, and it's perpetuating their anxiety. I mean, and that's why we're in this anxious generation. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And how do you help young adults recognize that these struggles don't define them?
that's a really challenging situation, is that they have trouble recognizing this dynamic because they're feeling like their bucket is being fed online. And so the problem is the solution in a sense. So they continually want to get soothing from online relationships that's causing the anxiety, but they get maybe that immediate soothing that's causing that. And they believe that that's their role. That's what they need. That's their sense of connection. And so they're thinking like, oh, I can survive on a candy bar. Like, yeah, candy bars have calories, but they're empty calories. I can survive on a on a on a energy drink that has technical calories, but it's not giving the nutrients that they need to survive. They're not getting all the minerals and vitamins from a candy bar or from an energy drink, but they're getting that kind of caloric intake. So it's really hard for them to really to develop the insight or the awareness around their suffering is related to that. And and so the hope is through like parents being aware of it, aware of this anxious generation and what's causing it on the front end, and helping to develop a child into a young adult about having the impact of social media and those things on that. So what happens is that usually um, they don't become wanting to look at this pattern is when they technically hit rock bottom. Like we see young adults become suicidal and realize and then have to be hospitalized and go into maybe some type of like psychiatric setting. And then that's when they become having the awareness around these particular issues. So I think it's important where our schools are setting the tone where it's really good to see that schools are banning cell phones in the classroom where they're not allowed to have cell phones. Um, I think parents are finally starting to realize that there's an epidemic around the device. So it's like we can't have our cake and eat it too. Like, oh, we want to correct this problem, but continue to give them the device that's causing them harm. And so it's so important as parents is that we don't give young people or children access to social media until they've gone through puberty. And and the same thing with alcohol. Like there's a reason why we have laws around giving a young person, like it used to be 18, now it's 21. And so we understand that alcohol is harmful to on the brain of a developing young person. Social media is harmful on the brain of somebody who is under puberty. And it's really interesting how cigarette companies like back in the 70s, 80s were in even in maybe into the 90s were targeting young people with ads around cigarettes. And so social media does the same thing as well too. It's harmful. Like anybody who is born 1996 and on, their brains are different. There is a like as Jonathan Haidt with the Anxious Generation book talks about, there's a rewiring of this generation, and it's not something to be taken not serious. And so it's really ironic that parents are so fearful about their kid being harmed in the real world, external world, and but they're not concerned about how their child is being harmed in the online world. And so as parents, we need to put the phones down. We need to be attuned to our kids and role model for what this is. But how many parents are tuned out by having a device in their hand when they're raising their child?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, barely. But that's such a vital reminder. Like that challenges can shape, but they don't have to confine. Mhm. Okay, so I was just asking that you have worked in diverse settings: hospitals, wilderness programs, residential centers. How has this wide perspective shaped the way you support young adults now?
Yeah, like where people are looking for a quick fix. And this is not a quick fix. Significant depression and anxiety is not a quick fix. And and in unfortunately, there's an industry of short-term treatment that are your 30 to 60 day, 30 to 90-day programs that are making a lot of money from insurance companies, and not and really for most of those clients not doing much. Maybe what they are doing is just keeping them alive, but it's not really addressing the problem. And so what happens, these clients are a revolving door to these short-term programs, that are not really really impact the client on a long-term basis, which is impossible. You can't really make notable change in 30 days. And so this is a long-term kind of issue that needs to be addressed. And and um and so it's something so it's important to realize. I think parents get duped. Young adults get duped knowing that, oh, I'm going to go to a short-term program and it's going to fix me. No, it's not. And it's not it's not going to be medication. It's not going to be talk therapy. It's going to be a holistic approach. It's going to address this. Where I think people in Western cultures are looking for a pill to solve their problems. And and we're seeing that with Ozempic when it comes to overweight and those things. It's going to be a lifestyle change. I mean, a therapist is part of that puzzle. Medication is part of that puzzle, but it's your diet, it's your sleeping, it's you going out and doing the work. And it's just hard work. Addressing depression, anxiety is not something that's going to change overnight, and it's heavy lifting. And it's and so it's I think people have to realize that it's a has to be a holistic approach to address these particular problems we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's fascinating how healing doesn't happen in one place. It happens where people feel both safe and challenged.
Yeah, like um we're over labeling everything as anxiety. Like, yeah, you might be experiencing anxiety, but it's not pathological or clinical anxiety. It's normal anxiety. Um, Life is challenging. Um, Not because it has to be, it's just because it is. And um, in teaching our children to avoid anxiety is one of the most which is setting them up to not to have the skills, not to develop the resiliency to manage normal life anxiety. Like our brains don't grow like in a vacuum. They grow with anxiety. Um, and when you're developing like new neurons, like a new thinking pattern, it's going to be uncomfortable. And so like so many parents don't have the ability to manage their own children's anxiety and want to like stop it and allowing that child to experience that anxiety. And so I think we're over labeling, over making anxiety, addiction, or trauma pathological. And that's creating a barrier for people to learn how to work through that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So, what an illuminating conversation with Dr. Hinman reminds us that young adulthood isn't just about navigating challenges, it's about weaving relationships, resilience, and skills into a meaningful life. If you are listening and know a young adult in transition, perhaps the greatest gift you can offer isn't advice, but authentic connection. Growth begins in relationship, and that's where true light shines.